Whoa, what a major pump by the NASDAQ and the SP 500. And Bitcoin is almost near a new high now, about to break through 30K. Are we in a bull market or is it still a bear market? But what about the banking crisis, you say? Why is the markets pumping right now even though there was a massive banking crisis? Now, if you've been following my account, you know that I've been saying buy the dip all along this time because we're expecting a big bounce or a small bull for the last number of weeks. This is Pablo here. Let's go. Okay, so first let's look at where the stock market is, the granddaddy of them all, SP 500, because this kind of determines where the rest of them go. So I've drawn this red line here, right? I see this as a inverse head and shoulders. So we have a shoulder, head, shoulder. And when this breaks out, you would think it would basically run the same distance as this head to neckline. So that would be the neckline to this headline space, which is about what? That could easily be about 450 on the SPDR, SPY, which is the SP 500 ETF. And similar situation is happening on the QQQ, which is the NASDAQ ETF as well. So you can see here's the neckline. We have inverse shoulder, head, shoulder, and it's already arguably broken through. But here's the problem. See, at this 317 level, it's major resistance. It's had one day, Friday, one day close above, but you can see here's a rising channel, right? So it could easily hit there and then go sideways or pull back a little bit over the next couple of weeks. Yeah, so over the next week or so, I think both the QQQ and the SPY, SP 500, NASDAQ could do some consolidation or pulling back. But in general, it's looking pretty good because it's broken the neckline. These growth stocks are performing better and crypto's performing better than SP 500 because the banking collapse affects banks. Who's got banks? These SP 500 indexes has lots of banks in them. So it's these, QQQ and crypto are performing better because interest rates are falling because, I don't mean the Fed funds rate, but I mean like the 2-year yield or the 10-year yields are falling because they say US banks are, world banks are in a bit of a trouble right now. So therefore, tech stocks are bouncing. They're sensitive to the 10-year yield. And we say crypto is bouncing. Bitcoin is still looking good on a weekly or even a monthly chart. See, where we've just had a monthly close, but it's basically closed at a new high. This is the weekly chart, by the way. And you can see we've had this big bounce up, right? Long wick or bottoming tail to the bottom, and now it's going sideways. What I've been saying in my Discord is that be careful of a pullback. If it pulls back to say 25, 23K, it's completely normal in a situation like this. Short term, however, if we look at the daily chart or the hourly chart, it's a little bit concerning because see, it keeps on having these long wicks to the top. It keeps on getting rejected at this 28.6 sort of level. And if it was to dip back and bounce off the, the highs here, which is around 25-ish, or even dip a little bit lower and bounce off, say, 23, 24, and then move up, that's completely, feasible, completely likely. So I made these videos quite a while ago saying that Bitcoin is forming this inverse shoulder, head, shoulder pattern with the neckline around here. That's about 25, just above 25K. So the target we're aiming for is around 34.5K, which is around here. But however, it is very likely to get a pullback of some sort, or at least sideways. The best scenario we hope for is a sideways consolidation, like sideways here. A bad situation would be like a pullback to about 23, then bounce up. But chances are we get that break above 30K because, see, this level here, that's 30K. It's where, remember back in July 2021, Bitcoin bounced off this level and then went to its all-time high at 69K. A lot of people, including myself, said that it's going to break down to 20K. That didn't happen. That didn't happen until it went to 69K first and then came down, right? And hit that about July 2022, almost a year later. So you can see this 28.6K to 31K area. It's basically massive resistance. It's possible, but I think Bitcoin hits there and basically takes a pullback. I don't know how big the pullback is yet first, and then bounces up. But what about the banking crisis, Pablo? What about the fact that all the banks are crashing? Well, if you have been following me at all, watched any of the videos and saw any of my tweets, You know what I think about this. So overall, even though the situation is very dire, for the banking sector, I think the Fed is putting enough liquidity out there in the markets. Maybe we could have one more small bounce before the big recession and the big crash comes in the second half of this year. So for the folks who have been following me consistently across different video platforms and Twitter, you know this has been my view since about 2 months ago. A new stocks and crypto bull market will surprise everyone. This was my video from January 24th, 25th on YouTube. It was like half an hour video and 12,000 people saw it. You can still watch it now. So even with this massive banking crisis going on, I am still expecting a big bounce or even a small bull market for crypto and stocks. I called it a big bounce for crypto, and this was from Jan 24th, right, on my Twitter. Here again in early Feb, saying big bounce, small bull. And again, big bounce, small bull. And again in March, big bounce, small bull. Big bounce, small bull. So why is it that we're confident on a big bounce and small bull from as early as January the 23rd or 24th? Well, it's because, see, we said back then that this is a bull signal and it's one of the probably the best Bitcoin indicator I have ever seen, which is that when the China starts pumping its money supply, then we can see it's being very accurate in the history of Bitcoin, right? But however, the Fed this time is hiking rates, whereas they have decoupled from China, so it's China pumping only by itself, and China alone cannot cause a major bull run. So it should be a big bounce or even a small bull for the Bitcoin market. And here, this is the chart I was referring to. It's essentially how the Chinese economy is performing. Basically, when the Chinese 10-year yield is rising, divided by the US dollar, then basically it produces these signals only like one every 1.5 years. And when it comes, it usually heralds some sort of major bounce. In the past, it coincides with the Fed pumping money as well, but now it's basically only happening with China pumping money. The Fed hasn't been doing any pumps, it's been hiking rates lately. Anyways, if you are in my Discord, you would have seen all this. If you want to go on my Twitter, you could see this chart from January 24th as well. Yeah, this video does go out to my Discord as always first, and then after about a couple of days, I make it public. So why is it during the banking crisis, we never thought the banks are going to be in any trouble, but instead, it's probably a time to buy the dip, which has been my message across all the multiple social media platforms. Because see, look at this is the weekly change in Federal Reserve's balance sheet. Kind of shows how much money they've printed or how much liquidity they've given out to the markets. And we see here a massive spike, right? March 23, which is in the last 2 weeks. The only 2 or 3 times it's had this kind of spike was October 08. That was the global financial crisis crash. And then March 2020, which was, of course, the COVID crash. That just goes to show you how much money the Fed has pumped into the market. So here it is. Let's have a look. So the Fed was doing QE, pumping a lot of money into the markets, trillions literally of dollars, and then doing QT. And that's why I've been saying we're going to have a bear market. We're going to have a bear market all throughout 2022. And then what happens? Banking crisis hits. Boom, it goes up. Basically, Fed is pumping money back into the markets again. I agree, this is not QE. But it's not bad for the markets when you see this, is it? It's basically providing a lot of liquidity for the banking sector. Also in my Discord, what I talk about a lot is the treasuries chart. The treasuries are drawing down, pretty much drawing down, see, almost down to less than 200 now, 200 billion now of the money they have in the accounts. They're basically, the treasury is basically trying to spend all the money they can before the debt ceiling negotiation. So that's more liquidity, hundreds of billions pumped into the markets. So you mean the market's just going to go up forever? What about 12K, Pablo? What about 12K Bitcoins? Well, first of all, I've always said it was 12 to 15K, and Bitcoin hit that perfectly at 15.4K before it bounced up. Second of all, let's go back to the original tweet. January 24th, I've said many times, key to watch is for a recession later in 2023 or early 2024. If we do get that recession, Fed is going to cut rates quickly, stocks and Bitcoin crypto will crash again. Could be a higher low than 15K or a double bottom as they call it. If it's a bad recession, then it could easily be a lower low than 15K. Okay, so there's always a few wankers who say, Pablo, you post videos saying it's going to go up and you post videos saying it's go down and you delete the one where you get it wrong. Okay, so for those dumb dickheads, here's a challenge. $10 million to anyone who can find a video where I've made the wrong call and it's been deleted. If I do this, then show me, post a video, post a tweet, $10 million reward.